Hey, Rudy.
Like a drug.
This is an actual quote from my wife.
Too many years of World of Warcraft expansions has burned her a little bit, though. Good evening, everybody. I am Itzamanus.
I'm Nerd2. What's up?
And look, that child absolutely had it coming. That was my copy of the Mario Kart. I'm just putting that out there.
And it's not all bad news. My Chinese knockoff Switch 2 has Final Fantasy VII on it. So it's
Ooh,
it could be worse.
could always be worse.
Hi, Rudy, Wim,
Uh,
KG, how you doing?
Evening, everybody.
Um, re-
So
Real quick
go
before
ahead.
we get into it, we're working on. So we're not affiliate, so we can't do channel redemptions, but we are working on stuff behind the scenes with like chatbots and things like that to try to get little things like I'll just show you guys like one of the command, and we will put out an entire command list, but like let's see if it works. It's not working. We're working on it. Basically we're trying to subvert channel redemptions with things we can do in chatbots to make it a little bit more interactive. FrostyBot is active, so shoutouts are active. Theoretically, the clip command should be active as well, although this Firebot we're working with seems to be weird. So, trying to add more things in until we do hit affiliate, and that way we can then officially do channel redemptions at that point. But please, Amanis, go right ahead.
All right. So obviously, the elephant in the room is the Switch 2, which released earlier this week, but we're going to wait to talk about that so that there are other things that we want to talk about. First is Fortnite had the big update today, end of the Star Wars mini season, which has been a little polarizing. Some people really love it, some people really hated it. As a fan of Star Wars, I was more in the love it camp, other than the fact that I could get sniped by some 12-year-old from across the map because there was absolutely no bullet drop. Uh,
I love
other
those
than that,
snipers this season, to be honest with you. I had a lot of fun with the Star Wars snipers.
yeah. So it was the first time I've ever finished, been a part of a season that finished and had a live event. The live event was very cool. I don't know if you got a chance to play it.
I did not. I
Basically,
forgot.
so yeah, so basically, you log in and there's a thing that sabotage the Death Star or whatever was the name of the event, and leading up to the time that the actual event started was a starfighter battle. You're in space and you alternate whether you are flying an X-wing or a TIE fighter. So you're alternating which side you're on. And your objective is to either shoot down a Star Destroyer or shoot down all the X-wings. Basically, all the X-wing side has, I think, like 50 lives for the entire. I think it was like a four-person team of starfighters. And then the Imperial side obviously had unlimited lives, and the Star Destroyer, which had guns and shields, because it's reminiscent of the actual Star Wars series, where the heavily overpowered, over armored Imperials are going up against the smaller force, and your objective is to shoot down the Star Destroyer or defend it and waste all of the rebels' lives. So that was really cool. It absolutely is something that should have been in since last week. Like, if you're going to introduce the Star Destroyer as a really cool thing in the game, there's nothing to it to add this additional thing. It would have been really cool. It was a lot of fun. People were, they had a leaderboard. People were racking up. I saw like, I think Wim and I played for probably 20 minutes and I had like 500,000 points. Oh, sorry about that, man with two brains.
What the fuck? All right, Nightbot's gonna be deactivated.
Yeah. Nightbot.
Stop spamming emojis.
Easy, bro. But yeah, so it was a really cool event that absolutely could have been in there for the entire week, because it was a lot of fun and it was really cool, and it gave you a chance to actually practice with the starfighters that you didn't get in the normal Fortnite game. And it was so much better. The controls were fantastic. It was cool, and there was like extra boxes you could shoot down to get faster firing rate on your guns, repairs.
Am I the only
shielding.
one? I think I'm going to install Battlefront again, because I thought that was getting a big resurgence for some reason, and I really want to fucking play it, dude.
It was this season. So many people were like, "Oh man, this really makes me want to play Battlefront." Blah blah blah. There was the other side of it, was like, well, they just need to turn a lot of people that liked this season were saying that they should add a separate mode, like a replay mode or whatever, for this season because they liked it so much, and it was
Yeah.
very reminiscent of Battlefront.
Yeah, I would
Um,
love them because they keep talking about Battlefront 3, and it's like we don't really like just reopen everything's open, support the servers. Battlefront 2 is a hell of a product. I think I'm
Yeah.
going to reinstall it. The problem is nowadays it's just space. Like I think I might be able to install that one on a hard drive. I don't know. I know it was before ray
Mhm.
tracing and all that shit. So
Yeah.
odds are I can get away with it on an HDD because I think it's like 120 fucking gig. It's a big game.
Yeah.
So like
Mhm.
storage has just been the bane of my existence lately. Like I recently before I got sick in July, I purchased Star Citizen, the big
Mhm.
open space game, and I literally installed it and never played the fucking thing.
Oh,
So yeah, never got a
I mean,
chance
I'm
to
guilty
play
of
it.
that too.
And so I reinstalled 120 gig and that's one of those games where like SSD only, not recommended, only. And it's like, okay, what the fuck am I uninstalling? Because I'm one of these people. My Steam is a fucking wreck. I've got so many installed
Right.
programs at one time. It's not even funny.
Yeah. Yeah, Battlefront saw a huge resurgence just because people did like this season. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how that goes. Numbers pick up for that game now that Star Wars is actually done.
Yeah.
But so that was the lead-in event, and then whenever it actually started, um, they didn't do a great job of kind of priming the pump for the transition from,
No.
because it was all one event. Like if you were in the Starfighter battle at 11 o'clock, whenever the live event actually started, it was just an automatic transition. Well, they didn't make that super clear. So it was like the timer hit 0 because it still had the timer in game just ticking away in the bottom corner. And it got to 0 and we kept playing the Starfighter game. I'm like, okay, so maybe I need to exit out of this mode and get into a different mode. Well, Wim stayed in that mode. Just we were trying to figure out what was happening. And she was able to just continue straight. Like she got shot down at one point. Like it disabled the TIE fighter guns.
Oh, okay.
Or something happened and it basically shot people down. And then it transitioned into the event. And the event was kind of a mix of cinematics and running, very little actual fighting. There was a little bit where basically your crew landed on the Death Star. I can post a video later. But your crew landed on the Death Star. You picked either being a stormtrooper or being a prisoner of the stormtroopers that were in your group. And you walked through the Death Star, like on your way to the prison, where you freed up a couple of NPC Fortnite characters. And it was really kind of funny because if you picked a stormtrooper, so if you picked an NPC, if you picked to be a prisoner, you stayed in your regular whatever outfit you picked for this event. If you were a stormtrooper, you were mostly in the stormtrooper armor until it came time to do like interaction or whatever, and then it took your helmet off, so you were your character, just the head, and then in the stormtrooper armor. And
What if you were the
so
stormtrooper skin under the stormtrooper? So no matter what, you still have the stormtrooper helmet,
Yeah.
just a slightly
I saw a
smaller
couple
one.
people that did that. Yeah, I saw a couple people that did that.
Wim said it was such a I
picked-
missed it. I pissed that I missed it. I forgot it was today.
Yeah. So and then it went through the storyline, and then you got to the end, and it basically blew you out of the Death Star back onto the map. Like you're falling, you're dropping backwards, so you can actually see the Death Star explode, and then you land, and there's all sorts of like electricity and like powers and stuff like that, and then it cuts to black, basically implying that the next season, which was later confirmed to be superheroes, and it's like this is how you got the powers, was from the Death Star exploding and blowing up a portal and stuff like that. And then it cut to like a scene from space where Superman is watching all of this go down.
Okay.
And then so then it cut to just a static loading screen with Superman looking at the map from like a galaxy kind of view. It had a countdown timer, which actually turned out to be bullshit because the servers came up way before they were supposed to. But it was counting down to the shop refresh time, and then an exit button. And if you clicked exit, it shut down the game because servers went down at it was 11:30 for me for maintenance. And so at that point, they were supposed to be down for like 5.5 hours. They came back up after like 2.5. So super cool, much faster than anticipated. Yeah, it was a really fun event. It was really cool. I have a better idea of how live events work now. And it felt like a really satisfying end to the overall story that was the mini season. A couple of points on the map changed because stuff exploded on them and all that kind of stuff leading into the map update for the new season.
You've played the new season?
I have, yeah. I haven't fully explored the new stuff yet, but I
checked out the replacement for Seaport City.
I have not fully gone in there yet.
We made the mistake of landing there, and it was so hot with sweaty people, we just got fucking wrecked.
Yeah, I intentionally tried to avoid the newer stuff because I knew that it was going to be like that.
Well, same thing with Star Wars.
Yeah.
So we played Rudy and I played a few rounds of the new season. It is weird. I got so used to not hunting for ammo. Like I was so used to hunting for ammo, not used to hunting for ammo, and now it's like, oh fuck, we need ammo again. That's a little bit jarring. The weapons are a mixed bag. They got some new and old. They got like a Spartan assault rifle. They've now got a single fire quasi sniper assault rifle, burst fire machine pistol. So there's some new weapons. Seaport City was wiped off the map. That's kind of now it's like a futuristic looking style city, very bright. I have noticed that with the new superhero style locations, they're very Metropolis kind of bright design for the actual layouts. They're very hot right now, so be careful if you go in there. I think the battle pass is kind of besides like, so there's a couple things here. You can unlock Superman early, who only supposed to be there starts July 11th. By it's 1,800 points. You unlock 25 spaces of your pass, and you unlock him early. So if you got 1,800 V-Bucks and you're looking for a skin, and it's like, well, I might as well get the battle pass rewards plus get Superman early. But beyond Superman and Robin, the battle pass for me is largely a letdown. It's just kind of a couple of kind of Gennaro superhero characters that they made.
Yeah, so if you have not checked out the battle pass yet, it is largely original characters. I don't remember all of them off the top of my head. I'm trying to look and see if I can find it.
One of them was Synthwave, and it was like a music style superhero. One of them had like frost power, but none of them are, dare I say, cool. Like one of them is a fish superhero with superhero powers. They did add some neat stuff. Like they have sprites now that shoot like Superman style lasers out of them.
I did find one of those. Yeah, I absolutely thought it was going to be like just a shield sprite. Like I saw the cape and I was like, oh, that's cute. They put capes on the shield sprites. And I picked it up and I tried to throw it and the lasers started firing off. I'm like, that's not what I thought it was.
I was kind of hoping you could toss it and have it like a grenade where it just starts shooting lasers at random and hurting whatever's in its way. But yeah, the fact that you could actually aim it and it's a pretty strong laser it shoots out too. That was pretty neat. They have new gloves. One of them was kind of like a Batman style one that I didn't like, but then one of them was a superhero style one that has a propulsion thing. And I'm just thinking, when it comes down to fighting on the top of a mountain, these gloves are going to be either your best friend or your worst fucking nightmare.
That is the new sword for this season. It's annoying as shit unless you have it.
Yeah, if you've got it, and not only that, you've got it, but you've got the aim on it, you're good, right? But these things don't protect against fall damage. So even at a low level, these guys were just on a slight incline. It wasn't, and I shot him off the top of it, and he went down from drop damage. And it's like, oh, these are gonna be a motherfucker this season. Just wait until you're driving your car at the top of the mountain and you get jettisoned off by fucking power gloves.
Yeah. So, yeah, so there's those new powers, and then yeah, the majority of the battle pass is just very generic. Superman is in there, Robin is in there. The rest are like Fortnite original characters.
Yeah, Superman is also
There
like
is,
the final unlock. Like his event doesn't even. You can once
yeah,
again you could pay for him, or his unlock doesn't start until July 11th.
yeah, and it looks like I believe there was. I need to go back and look. I'm going to play later tonight. Um, there is like a hidden section in there too. That's probably either some other superhero or something. Hopefully, it's somebody good.
Yeah.
I there were rumors that Nightwing is supposed to be in there, so that may be his. Since Robin is part of the standard pass, it may go to
Yeah.
him and then go to Superman. But and then allegedly, rumor has it there's supposed to be some sort of DC partnership collaboration during this season. I don't know when it would make sense since it's
I'd like
superhero
to.
season.
I'd like to see the Joker skin come back onto the shop. Without the extortion prices.
Yeah,
I was, we were talking about this earlier. I just wish they would do it for once to service the fans and not their own pocketbooks. Like,
yeah,
you have 8 characters in the past that people can unlock. Give 4 heroes, 4 villains. And even if you don't want to do top tier, like you could still do Robin, Nightwing, Catwoman,
right,
like all these secondary heroes. And then you got secondary villains, like depending on who you classify as a secondary villain. But I mean, Mr. Freeze, Clayface, Killer Croc,
right,
like you have all these other, at least you would be still giving the players characters
right.
they fucking know instead of just like, here's this one that has frosty hands. It's like,
Yeah,
okay.
right. So I am curious, and this is definitely what you're talking about with regard to not just going for profit off of it. I'm curious to see what skins pop up in the shop this season
Yeah.
because they'll get added as we go. Um, I would love a Mr. Freeze skin.
I
I
would
would
too,
love it even
dude.
more if it even I would love it even more if it was the Arnold Schwarzenegger version of Mr. Freeze.
Oh,
That would piss
God.
off so many people,
Dude,
and I would be here for it.
so growing up, dude, I was a huge Schwarzenegger fan, but that was still one of those movies that like I had no choice but to make fun of. Like just like
Yeah.
tonight it's going to be a freeze. And they've got his like voice all modulated and shit, and he's he's
Yeah.
like, "Hey, chill out, just come on, no more catchphrases, Arnold, please, cool off,
What is the
no, please."
dinosaurs?
Yeah.
Ice Age.
He's just doing his Arnold laugh. It's like this is
Yeah.
Mr. Freeze isn't Arnold. Like that, you just turned Mr. Freeze into Schwarzenegger.
Right. I know a lot of people hate that movie, and even George Clooney is like, I regret doing that movie, but I love it so much.
I do too. And like those are the type of movies that like back then, it was really easy to be like, well, this is shit. Like this is like stupid. But nowadays you watch them and it's kind of like I kind of miss back when comic book movies were a little shitty. Like nowadays,
Right.
like Avengers Doomsday has $1 billion budget. It's
Mhm.
got $250 million in cast salary.
Right.
I miss this. Like I like Blade 1. Like literally the main villain in the
Yeah.
movie is who gives a fuck Steven Dorff, and he looks like he's in a vampire boy band, and it's one of the most badass fucking like Marvel movies ever that they don't acknowledge.
Right. Yeah, and I think part of the problem, at least from the DC standpoint, is they looked at how successful the Dark Knight trilogy was with being dark and gritty, and I am Batman. And they thought, oh, people like the dark and gritty. No, that's not what we want. We want a well written, well directed Batman movie. It doesn't have to be dark and gritty. Now, don't go so far as to go back to Adam West either, but have a little fun with it.
I mean, I think the problem with the Nolan trilogy is if you watch Batman Beyond, it isn't very dark and gritty.
No.
It's got kind of some of the scenes when everybody's on the drug, and they're hallucinating and they see him as like this creature, but it's not really dark and gritty. Dark Knight is that entire movie rests on Heath Ledger.
Yes.
The reason why nobody gave a shit about Aaron Eckhart's Harvey Dent was because all you wanted was more Joker. And the problem with the third one was Heath Ledger's dead, and the design was Heath Ledger was the co-villain in number 2, and he was the main villain in number 3. So then you end up with a movie that, compared to Dark Knight, because you just don't have the same pieces, both the first and the third in that trilogy are lackluster compared to the second one. And so for me, I mean, like, I'm also like, I enjoyed, you know, Batman Returns. I was a big fan of the Tim Burton Batman movies. I don't mind dark and gritty. Like, I really liked Matt Reeves' The Batman. But I think the smart way to handle it is to have the Batman and then have your, you know, universe Batman. The comic, you know, and if the movies are really gonna emulate comics, then emulate it that way, where this is this is a story. This isn't our universe, but this is a story inspired by the universe. So you have a different Batman. And then you can go into Ninja Batman and all sorts of shit. You can also start telling the you know, the evil Superman stories, stuff like that. I am a little concerned with the new Superman. Like, I was a fan of Man of Steel. I don't necessarily feel a Superman needs to be brutal. And I don't think Man of Steel, the first one, was brutal. I thought that movie, besides killing Zod, that movie was just really well done. I think the dark and gritty came in when you had Batman. I think, in all fairness to Snyder, and I think maybe not fairness to him, there should have been a Batman movie. There wasn't, you know, it was just Batman versus Superman, and there wasn't a dedicated Ben Affleck Batman. And the problem with that is you don't establish your universe as Batman, and then all of a sudden he's murdering people in a warehouse. And you're kind of like, okay. And the problem is they retroactively try to add, you know, when they show when Superman's fighting, and they watch Bruce Wayne go into the fire when the buildings are coming down. But that should have all been done. Like, you should have had that movie already with that whole scene, and this should have been done. This shouldn't have been done in Justice League. And they really, you know, Snyder really fucked up by not having a dedicated Batman movie to at least flesh out the conflict.
And that's why Marvel has always been so successful, is because they do that character building, that universe building. You know, it led to maybe a couple of more movies than we really needed as a part of that universe building. But overall, that's exactly why they get away with it, is because they do the backstories. Like, you know, full disclosure, before Iron Man came out, I was not huge into, like, I still don't read comics. I would like to. I'd like to get more into comic book reading, and I just, you know, need to go down and start finding some good stories and stuff like that.
With technology, do it on your monitor. Like, go to like Kindle has Comixology or whatever. I think it's like $10 a month. Everything you could fucking want to read for the most part. And if you don't want your neck all cranked reading a fucking Kindle or something, you can pop it up on your monitor. They even have some of them as like interactive comics, you know? So like that's when I don't read them as much as I used to, but I do have that subscription. So like when I consume it, it's usually on my monitor or my iPad. Just because like the world is not set up for like, there is a comic shop in town, but for the price of a comic there, I've got a month's worth of shit here. That even if it's not the brand newest, I haven't read 75% of this.
And that's always been kind of my issue, is like, you get into comics and it's like, okay, where do I start? Because it's like, there's just multiverses, and, you know, oh, there's this comic book series, and then this comic book series that has the same character, but it's a different point in his life. And then there's this comic book series, which is, if you took this one moment and flipped it on its head, here's a whole other arc. And
what the fuck is Old Man Logan? Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I always, for me, I love the Punisher. So, but like, I'm a Punisher Max guy. So if like anybody asks me, like, all right, what do you recommend from Punisher? The entire Max library. Anything where he is just a brutal son of a bitch. But I mean, there's a, you know, for like, if you, I try to take it very basic because it's kind of not my world. You know, I'm not engrossed into the comic book culture. So for me, it's just by interest. Like, Not too long ago read all of the Marvel Zombies. That was really cool. I want to get into The Walking Dead. I haven't read that in a very long time. Like, I'm going for stuff that I can recognize and hopefully get into, and then go from there. Like, at this point, what is lore anymore? And this is not a joke. At least I don't think it was a joke, but I just recently saw that a new Marvel storyline has been published where Black Panther is white. So...
yes, and Ryan Gosling was cast in a Black Panther in a movie.
Is that real that he was cast?
I thought it was a joke, but I have not heard anything saying, oh, by the way, this was a joke.
Academy Award winner Ryan Gosling for The Notebook is Black Panther.
And kind of the, I don't know, but kind of the gist of what I got is people are kind of assuming that he was the White Wolf, which at one point was actually Bucky Barnes, who was then tapped to take on the mantle of the Black Panther. So I kind of get it, but at the same time, this thing is ripe for, it's whitewashing. So,
I mean, here's the thing,
it's going to be a little touch and go on this one.
I think it's the same argument for anything, right? Like, for how long have we been hearing, people bitch about why did they make this character a woman? Why is the Silver Surfer a woman? Why is this white superhero black? And I think it's one of those things where if it's not a legitimate question on that side, then it's not a legitimate question on any side. So frankly, for me, it boils down to the writing. Does it make sense, or are we just shoehorning? Right? Like, there's a lot of people right now that are saying, all they did was gender and race swap Iron Man for Ironheart. And it's like, if I'm going to disqualify that line of thought process, then I have to disqualify the other line of thought process of, like, the whitewashing. Even if it is true, it's going to boil down to the writing, right? Like, if they decide that all of Wakanda decides to bow down to this random white dude, then we can maybe talk about, like, what the fuck is going on, But, like, let's see what the writing does and go from there. I do find it funny. It's very bizarro world. Like, I feel like, 2 years ago we were hearing the opposite about everything, and now it's like, I just assume it's a joke. It's that kind of surreal. I was like, okay, so they're going to do a comic book. And then I saw the Ryan Gosling thing, but I didn't think it was for real.
Right. Same. Like, I saw that and I was like, oh, this has to be a joke. Somebody is making this up. Somebody is gaslighting, like, everybody with this one. But we'll see.
I mean, here's the thing. Wouldn't it be great if they technically cast a white guy because they have Robert Downey Jr. playing his character from Tropic Thunder as Black Panther. So he's technically a white dude. God, Marvel would get so much better. Like, I would probably sit in the theater for that one just to laugh at the concept, but they would get so much backlash. Like, you can't have that character walking around Disneyland and Universal Studios. Like, you can't do it.
I'm a dude disguised as another dude, disguised as a third dude, disguised as a fourth dude.
Yeah, I'm the Black Panther. Who are you? And he's like, wait, what? And then everybody in the Wakanda's like, wait, who are you? Oh, yeah, no. I mean, that would be the funniest Marvel movie ever made. Also, probably what gets them shut down. Disney's like, you know what? We're selling you. You're going back to Viacom. We want nothing to do with this. No, thank you. I would have a good laugh on it, though. I'd buy that on Blu-ray. Yeah. I would get a physical edition of that one.
So yeah. Fortnite season, superheroes. We'll see how it goes. DC, all that good stuff. So, but that does lead us into something that you had wanted to talk about with Marvel, with Doctor Doom.
There's a couple rumors. Robert Downey Jr. has been, I guess, dropping hints of, like, what comic books he's reading. So the current rumor is the storyline is Doctor Doom is actually someone from a different universe who is trying to save his universe by defeating Galacticus. So the rumor is he starts off essentially going against Galacticus, or comes in at some point to help fight Galacticus to try to save his own planet. They're kind of, I think, trying to take it from the idea that he was a good guy at one point, trying to save his universe, and so the way the rumor frames it is essentially he's going to come up against the Avengers doing some shit that once again, Thanos did something that he thought was morally correct. Realistically,
Right.
Thanos is the big bad villain, but in his mind, he was doing the universe a favor. He was doing what nobody
Right.
had the balls to do, and what he was going to do eventually saves everything. And I think they're
Right.
going to kind of frame Doom like that, going up against Galacticus. But while he does it, more or less, I'm going to assume it's kind of he's using humans and Earth as toys to do whatever the fuck he wants, against Galacticus.
Yeah.
There's that rumor. There's been a couple rumors. One of them is that Robert Downey Jr. is only going to be Doctor Doom for the first movie, and then something's going to happen to change the character. There's rumors that Reed will turn evil because there's a story arc in the comics that does it. So I don't know how founded those are, but there's a bunch of shit circulating. And then you've got AI videos of set footage that are so realistic looking, it's legitimately fooling people. Where you see it on the Twitter blows up for a day, and then you see the next day like one tweet where it's like, turns out that was bullshit, like, and that's it.
So I would question the whole Reed turning evil thing. I don't know that Pedro Pascal could pull that off. And I don't know that society would let him be evil because he's always been the good guy.
Hey, man, but we're in the year where John Cena was never a bad guy. He's a bad guy right now in wrestling. Like the ones that you would never expect it gotta go evil. That's how it works.
That's true. That is true.
Like, even Luke Skywalker, the difference between Jedi and Sith with him is, it's very narrow, really. Look at what happened to Anakin.
True.
Anakin goes from I miss my mommy to brutally murdering children. You know what I mean? Like it was
the sand. It got in his uniform and it was coarse and itchy and
it gets everywhere.
Things happen.
Yeah, that's the thing that was Star Wars always kind of threw me off, is it's technically in the future, but everybody's still just walking around in sand, and it's got almost a steampunk future quality to it, where it's like, why this doesn't feel like when they're in space, like the only thing future about Star Wars is the evil. If you notice that, like the Sith has the big space destroyers and the Death Star, and it's like the dark side's got everything nice, and literally the good side is in swamps and forests. It's just, there's a weird dichotomy between the two, where like, as bad as this is to say, I probably would have been a bad guy because they probably had cell phones and video game consoles. I'm just saying.
I'd point out who the current president is and who's running the country. But anyway,
we're gonna get a Death Star. We're not gonna call it the Death Star. It's gonna be the Star of Life, and we're gonna go there. It's gonna have a golf course and hotels. That would be fucked up, as if like you looked in the vista and you had the moon, and then it's like out of Borderlands. Over here is like the Trump Star. It's just a giant spherical fucking casino. It's like Biff took over the world at one point from Back to the Future 2. We're gonna have a Biff Star. We're gonna make it bigger than the moon.
That'll happen. Stop speaking things into existence.
I just saw a video about Back to the Future. There's a question about how many times Marty McFly has died, because they cited 3 examples. Back to the Future 2, Marty jumps off the back of the top of the building, lands on the DeLorean, Doc flies up, they knock out Biff on the tower. Somebody brought up the point of how many times did Marty have to die before Doc realized the exact what and when. So then another piece of evidence is when they're back in the 50s and Biff is chasing him down the tunnel in the car, right before Biff hits him, Doc is there with the string to save him. Once again, how many times did Biff just mow Marty over before Doc figured out the when and where? So, like, it's one of those theories where it makes you wonder if, like, Doc Brown has just come across a dead, mutilated fucking Marty McFly and just like, shit. And figured out 10 minutes from now I can go back and we'll figure, like, it's very fucking possible, and it's so fucking dark. I love it.
That's absolutely possible.
Like, how many? Oh, the other one was
didn't think of that.
when they hang him in the Wild West one. How many times did Marty McFly just die from hanging before Doc
Right.
Brown figured out the when and where and saved his ass. Like, once again, did he just walk to the town square and go, Marty? And go, fuck, all right. Once again. It's one of those theories where I would love like a behind the scenes where they just explore the theory wormhole, like somebody needs to make a documentary about that.
Somebody write a fanfic of that.
Right? Yeah, right. Like a
Credit
rated
noted
R
too.
version where Doc Brown goes into like a certain time frame and there's just 6 dead Martys. He's like, what the fuck happened? Like, we need Rick and Morty to invade the universe so we can get that going.
Say all of a sudden another dead Marty just falls out of a
Yeah,
portal somewhere.
Yeah, like Doc Brown pulls up to the Biff Tower, and like as he pulls up, he hears something and looks up, and it's Marty McFly falling to his death right in front of him from when he jumped off the building beforehand, and he's like, "Okay, 5 minutes before, gotcha." And he gets back in his DeLorean, fucking setting the time coordinates, like, "I'll be there this time." People are running away screaming in horror, and he's just like, "Oh, missed it again." Like, if you have that level of time travel, like mortality and shit like that for you, it would just stop phasing them. With Before
Right.
Time, Doc Brown's just going like, he'll get there just a minute too late. He's like, I had to get a coffee. I'll just go back in time, don't we? Like, I had to get my latte. Like, he just stops off to get a latte, and Marty's just a pancake.
Shows up in 1955 with a Starbucks.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah, he just shoots the person that sees it. I'll go back in time. Just continuously is ruining everything all the time. Doc Brown is a fucking menace. I would love to do, if I had the budget and we were all together, we would film that series of Doc
Yes.
Brown being basically just a huge piece of shit. Oh, what else? Oh, yeah,
We went a little dark for KG.
it's KG's plenty dark. She's fronting. And the other big thing was the Nintendo Switch did finally. I actually forgot the exact release date until my brother, who got one, was bitching.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta go to fucking GameStop, and then I gotta go back to fucking GameStop. I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, I gotta go to GameStop to finalize everything before 10 o'clock. And then I gotta come back at 11 and wait in fucking line for the thing. And it's also they can upsell you shit. So each time you go in there, and it's like, you got to get a case for it. You know that? You're like, beyond us putting staple marks in the fucking thing, you want to get a case to protect it.
Oh God, so many people.
And from what I'm understanding, everybody, even if you had a smooth transition, it still was like he said he waited an hour and a half. They were letting 5 people in at a time. And stuff like that. And that was a GameStop. I imagine a Best Buy. I know you said you went to Best Buy, right?
Yeah, and I will actually tell you the story about that because Wim and I are on Pacific time right now. We're in Arizona, which matches in the summer. It matches California as far as times. So I was able to pick it up at 9 o'clock that night.
Nice.
On the 4th. Which was Wim and I's wedding anniversary. So she very graciously said, yes, we can go pick up your Switch.
Happy anniversary.
We did dinner, did the whole thing. Thank you. 14 years married. It's 21 this year that we've actually been together. So we went down there, got there a little bit beforehand. I wanted to go in and pick up one of the memory cards, which I'm glad I didn't because it sounds like they're having issues. So I want to wait until they actually confirm, like, oh, these are all working now. You're good.
Haven't killed them yet.
KG. No, she has not
yet.
I have tried, but so we get there, a little bit early, and there's a line outside, but it's not too bad. So I'm like, okay, so go in, walk around a little bit, come back out. It's getting a little bit longer, but I'm like, okay, it's still not so bad. Foolishly assuming that they would have this process somewhat organized and in a reasonably efficient manner, which it looked like they did up front because if you're looking at the store, to the right-hand side, they have a line marker that says pre-order pickup here. To the left side of the front doors, they have a basically like new purchases here for the Switch. So you're segregated based on how fast your pickup is going to be. I can see somebody, a Best Buy employee, walking down the new purchases line, like writing down names and stuff like that, to make sure that people don't get unruly and start cutting and stupid crap like that. So we go sit in the car for a couple more minutes, and I continue to see the line getting longer and longer. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go jump in line now before it gets any longer. Still ended up at pretty much the end of the line. So 9 o'clock rolls around. We're still waiting outside, and it's 9 o'clock at night, 93 degrees outside because we live in Phoenix. And I didn't bring water or anything because I thought that it would be quick. So 9 o'clock, 9:05, 9:10, 9:15. Line's not moving. Finally, an employee comes walking down and is basically like, okay, we're letting 2 people in at a time. And, we will have, limited accessories also available for purchase when you do your pickup. And we have water if anybody wants water. They have like a cooler full of it or whatever.
That's the least they
So-
could fucking do. It's 93 degrees out at night.
Right. And they're not letting us line up inside, which I kind of get because they don't want people in the
It's
store like
far-
touching merch. And,
Far too many people.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Right. So she goes back, and then like a manager comes walking down the line, and he's carrying like 4 bottles of water at a time. I'm like, bro, I know you've got a cart. If those things are in coolers, put the cooler on the cart and just walk the cart around.
Yeah.
Don't sit here and walk this line. Right.
Gotta
So
get my steps
that-
in, bro.
that was indicative of a larger organizational problem because, again, they were only letting 2 people in at a time. And it wasn't even 2 people from each line or 2 people specifically from the pre-order line because all of the pre-orders were tagged and ready to go. Like Best Buy
Wait,
emailed me
you have to
multiple
pay
times.
for the pre-order up front is what it is.
Right. So whenever I pre-ordered it, they did like the bounce charge on my card to make sure that I had sufficient credit available and all that good stuff. Fine. They kept it on file. They messaged earlier in the week and they were like, hey, just so you know, we're going to charge your card for your pre-order this week. Make sure it's good, or if you need to change it, whatever. I was good. I didn't have to make any changes or anything, so I just let it roll. So then they send me the barcode. They're like, use this whenever you go to pick it up, blah, blah, blah. So I got there and I was ready to go. And so was everybody else in the pre-order line because the purchase portion of it was easy as pie. It was the pickup part that was the problem. So they're letting 2 people in at a time, not being efficient about it all. So we ended up like, it was supposed to start at 9 o'clock. Between 9 and like 9:40, the line had moved maybe 5 feet.
Oh.
I saw like 3 or 4 people, and you'd hear people cheering every time somebody came out with one.
Yeah, that's because they
But it
want
was
to go
not
home in
going-
the AC and get some fucking water
Right.
or soda. They're dying.
Right. This was not moving fast at all. So finally, I'm just like, you know what? They have already confirmed to me that if I don't pick it up today, my unit has already been set aside. I technically had until next Tuesday, I think, to pick it up. I'm good. I'm too old and too warm to be waiting for this shit outside. So we left. We went home. I was like, because I can either stand in this line doing nothing but waiting for this switch for 2.5 hours, or I can go home, play some video games with my friends, get a good night's sleep, and I'll come back tomorrow. So that's what we did. Came home, played video games, did the whole bit. So Wednesday morning rolls around, Thursday morning. I was working from home that day, so I was like, store opens at 10. Roll down there at like 9:45, pick it up at 10, be good to go. Get down there. There's another line outside the store. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? So I walk up and I got there right as they open the doors. So the line is very organized, moving inside. They had everybody come inside this time because the store was actually open. Everybody's waiting in line at the register. It's a decent length line. So I'm like, all right, well, we'll see how this goes. And I keep hearing people talking about Pokemon all around me. I'm like, okay, the new Pokemon game for the Switch doesn't come out until later this year, early next year, whatever.
I got oh man, wrong line.
So finally, I'm like, I wonder if I'm in the right line. So an associate comes walking by, and I'm like, hey, I'm here to pick up a Switch pre-order. Can I, like, is this the line for that? Or do I, so I've been in this line for about 10 minutes, almost 15 by the time this happened. So I'm like, can I, do I need to be in, is this the line for that? Or can I pick it up from you since it's a pre-order? He's like, it's a Switch pre-order? I'm like, yeah, here's my barcode, here's my ID, blah, blah, blah. He's like, oh, let me go grab that for you. The line was for Pokemon cards.
Okay, please tell me the demographic of that line. Like, how old?
And me.
Okay, that's what I thought.
You and me fit in this line like
perfectly. That's what I fucking thought.
Yeah. So this line was for Pokemon cards because intelligently they keep them all behind the registers. They limit purchases because people are freaking nutty about Pokemon cards now, apparently. Which I'm like, there's more than 150 Pokemon now.
I've seen videos of grown men because they will restock kiosks of them that they have in like grocery stores. And grown men know when they restock it. They wait until right after it's restocked. They go in and they buy the entire fucking stock. Matt, remember when people would pre-order from another store? All the time. We worked at Blockbuster, and that was I pre-ordered it. Yeah. Right, but then another big thing was like, but I called and asked you to hold the movie, and it's like, you didn't call me. I'm the only fucking guy here. Okay, my other guys. Let me ask you. Anybody? No, nobody. Okay, did you call the right store? And to be fair, I didn't think that was all that common. Then I moved out here, and there's several like greasy spoons named Little Nicky, or not Little Nickies, the Real Nickies. To the point where the one answers the phone, hi, thank you for calling the Real Nickies McCoy on, and they give you the fucking cross streets.
Yeah.
Like, I never had a problem with it. And I also kind of in my head figured like Google Maps or Apple Maps, everybody's using that to look up phone numbers, but people are like, this is just dumb. I don't know. Blockbuster, I used to like Blockbuster. Alex hated it.
I worked at Hollywood Video. I totally get you. I'm with you on that. But yeah, so I show them barcode. 2 minutes. Took me 2 minutes to pick up my Switch on Thursday.
Well, 17 minutes if you include the line you waited at.
Well, 17. Yeah. So that part is on me for not checking. Like, hey, are y'all nerds here for the Switch? No? Right? Okay, then I'm just going to
What kind of nerds are you? I know it's a Japanese product, but which one?
Right. But yeah, so then I got home, and let me tell you, the transfer process from my original Switch to the new Switch was fantastic. I got the dock and everything all set up on my desk so I could stream it and stuff like that. The transfer process was easy as pie. I did have to reinstall Fortnite because it is a separate app from Switch 1 to Switch 2, which I get. It's like different architecture in the Switch.
Have you tried Fortnite on it yet?
I have not actually played it. There is a special emote that is Switch 2 exclusive.
Oh. You gotta check it out.
Pretty much the only reason I
check it out with the mouse mode.
I'll do that. So they actually with the Switch 1, you remember the nunchuck slider things that they had to for the buttons. For the Switch 2, it's actually got like feet for like a mouse, so that whenever you put it in mouse mode.
That's cool.
So you're not just sitting there dragging
Is that magnetic as well?
This does not feel like it is magnetic. It feels like it might actually clip in. But
okay.
Let me see. But the changes, the updates that they made to the Switch 2, I was a little hesitant at first, but it definitely has improved the quality of it. You know what? It's not magnetic, but it does clip in.
Yeah, I was gonna say it snapped right in there.
So on the Switch 1, you remember the tiny ass button you had to try and push in to take it off the dock or whatever? No, this time it's like a full, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but it's like a full button there.
Oh, okay.
So it's like you can actually get a finger on it as opposed to like trying to
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually a little bit less sour on the whole thing from the last time we really talked about it. I found out a couple things, like indeed Switch 1 games that are, whatever, like let's say your Switch 1 game is designed to run at 30 frames a second at 720p, but it never quite hits that target, and you run at like 28 frames a second, shit like that. Every game utilizes the raw power of the Switch 2. So no matter what, you will be like games like Pikmin 3 that had frame
Mm.
rate drops now are going to be running at their full intended resolution and frame rate, which for me, that is a huge bonus. However,
Yeah.
still kind of the same we talked prior. And I think people need to stop kind of fronting too. If the answer was, hey, you want a Nintendo Switch 2 for free, every fucking person would take one. The fact is they're
Yes.
expensive, and I think people need to be honest, and where it's not that you don't want one, it's that it's just not a priority at $500 for what it is. I think the biggest weak link in the Switch 2 launch is its launch lineup. I think Mario Kart and Donkey Kong are not enough first parties to launch with. I think it's awesome that Cyberpunk runs on the console. Cyberpunk is a 5-year-old game.
Right.
You know, and
Well,
I think as Nintendo fans, you know, I think we also need to kind of be honest that in order to love Nintendo, we drop our standards quite a bit.
Right.
You know,
And the thing is that you're absolutely right. The lineup is lackluster. I think a lot of people would be at least happier, if not fully happy. They would be happier though if Nintendo had come out. We all know it's going to happen, but if they had come out and said, "We have a new Mario game on the way. We have an Odyssey sequel on the way. We have a new Zelda game on the way. We have a new Animal Crossing on the way. We have like all of these games are in the lineup for 6, 12, 18, 24 months out. They are in our roadmap. They are coming. Like, guarantee me that. Tell me that. Give me some sort of at least ballpark timeline.
But not only that, but give
Like,
the
when do I need to
roadmap
make this investment?
and then flaunt the power of the console and say, hey, we have new Mario coming out, but you can enjoy every other Mario game that you've always loved at the best quality you've ever played it at. It's, higher, even if it's a higher resolution, the most optimal way to play these games is, and then you start naming big ones. All of the top-down Zelda games ran like shit. So those which are supposed to be 30 frames, while you wait for the next Link's adventure, check out these games now running at an optimal 30 frames a second, 1080p. Right. One of the things they're not marketing at all is one of the biggest things to me, and that's how does it treat my already owned games? If I play it on Switch 2, am I playing the same thing I'd play on Switch 1, or am I playing what that copy was supposed to be? The optimal version of that game. And I wish they would market that, because if you had told me 2 months or however long ago we had that discussion where I was so negative on it, if there would have been a definitive, it doesn't matter if it's got an update to it, every single Switch 1 game will benefit from the raw power of this console, that would have been a huge selling point for me. It still would be, especially if it was like, while you wait for Metroid Prime 4, the first one now runs, I think it was 60 frames entirely. There's never a frame drop. Loading times have been cut down. Tie the marketing in. Nintendo's terrible with marketing beyond their directs. The directs are great, but it's quarterly messages.
Right, because they, not to be crude, but they think that they can just big dick it and say, "Oh, we're Nintendo. That's all you need to know."
Yeah, you'll get a Mario game. You'll get a Zelda game.
That's not how that works. Feed me. Give me the information. Give it to me at a pace that you want, but give me more than, well, it's Nintendo.
Well, that's like, it's like if your drug dealer said, hey, man, I got this really good piece. It's $500, but it makes everything into magic when you smoke it. And then they went, we'll let you know, eventually we'll get more of that stuff that you can smoke in. Because, the problem is like Mario Kart's cool, but, what was the demographic of the line for Switch 2s? Was it us? Or was it kids?
It was us. There were a couple of kids. Granted, part of it was that it was 9:00 at night, but that's one of the things that it's a shared experience, though. Like, bring your kid. See, look at all these people that are here at 9:00 at night because they love this system. They love these games. These are your people.
KG, I like Mario Kart too, but my whole thing is like, you have a brand new console out, and the only 2 Switch 2 games are Mario Kart and Donkey Kong. There is no other first-party titles. And for me, that's a problem, because, I remember when I got the Wii, Best Buy did it great. They were allowing, 10 people at a time, and this was back when more physical media was pushed, But you walk in, and along the way to customer service to pick up your console, just tables full of everything that was releasing. And I think the Wii launch had like 10 fucking games. It was like 6 or 7 first parties and then a few third parties. And well, see, that's the other thing, KG, is they do have a mini game thing for Switch 2. From what I understand, you have to own 95% of the accessories that they sell for Switch 2 to actually utilize this $10 mini game that you explore the Switch 2. So
yeah,
I don't know if that means that some of the mini games are for the camera or if some of the mini games are for, other optional things. But apparently, in order to complete the whole thing, you basically have to have every accessory they sell.
Now, I will say I haven't tested it yet because I haven't tried playing online with anybody or anything like that. But it does work with non-proprietary hardware. So I'll probably try it with one of my Logitech cameras, but apparently that works with it. And the Switch 1 did as well. I had a generic USB Ethernet cable dongle that I used that wasn't the Nintendo branded one. And it worked. The new Switch dock has a built-in Ethernet port, which is so nice. Smart.
The eShop, I did play around with my brothers a little bit. The eShop is the biggest update of that fucking thing. Just the smoothness of the new eShop is so needed.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem with it is the Switch 2, when you compare the Switch 1 kind of feels like a Kindle. And like a Kindle Fire in comparison. I hate to put it that way. I think the long run is Nintendo. I hate to say this, but Nintendo is gonna really at some point have to cut off Switch 1 entirely. Like right now, Switch 1 cartridges, some of them do work, or Switch 2 cartridges, some of them do work on Switch 1. The problem with that is you will stifle creativity and you will stifle progress, both graphically and framework-wise in the game, if you constantly force them to work within the parameters of the Switch 1 hardware. So at a certain point, they're going to have to completely abandon Switch 1 ports for these games in order for them to be truly whatever is Nintendo's next gen.
Yeah, and I feel like that's going to be not long in coming because more of I think that's a victim of not having a lot of first party titles at launch. I think once they start kicking out stuff like Mario, they're going to reach that point really fast where they do start saying, okay, we're cutting it off, third party, if you wanted to try and do both, great. But for first party stuff, we're cutting you off.
Yeah, Metroid Prime 4 is the last Switch 2 title that will also work for Switch 1.
That'll be the last one.
KG, you can play GoldenEye right now on your Switch 1, and if you were to get a Switch 2, you can play GoldenEye on the Switch 2. It's part of the Nintendo Online pack. They have a port of, it's funny she mentioned GoldenEye. My PC blew up the other day. My power supply exploded. And I literally had my iPad on my desk, and I had my Xbox One connected to my monitor. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to play some GoldenEye. So I was down for 2 days on the PC till we got it repaired. And I beat like half of GoldenEye. And I just kept thinking to myself, like, when I was a kid, this game was so fucking hard. Like, when I was a kid, I got this game. We got the N64, I think, a year after it released for Christmas. I got GoldenEye, and my brother got Mario 64. When I was a kid, man, it was like, this game's so hard, I don't know how to beat it. And now I'm just, a little stoned, and I'm just sitting there for 3 hours, just zoning out, like, oh, this game's fucking awesome still.
Yeah.
Also want Mortal Kombat. Oh, you can, I don't know do they have the Mortal Kombat, like, 1 through 3 collection on Switch? I would be surprised if they didn't.
No, I don't think so.
Well, you know what it is the last couple Mortal Kombats they've had on Switch have been failures because the hardware. Maybe now, like, let's say they make Injustice 3, like NetherRealm's talking about doing. Maybe you can get a competent fighter on Switch 2, which was always the bane of the existence for Switch 1. Duck Hunt. No. I don't know. I wonder. I don't think Duck Hunt is in. I mean, I know with Switch 2 they're also bringing forward the GameCube emulation, which is really cool.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, no, I honestly I wanted, like, I was pissed at what Nintendo was doing. I still wanted one. I just thought it's, it's one of those things where $500 is not, $300 is a hell of a lot easier to swallow. Even 400
Yeah.
is a lot easier to swallow than 500 plus accessories. So like, I think the
Yeah.
plan now is we're gonna pick one up. I'm gonna wait until they got a couple more first party titles out that I really
Hmm.
want to dig into. Because the worst thing I want to do is buy the Switch, blast through the cool shit I want to play, and then be forced to sift through my library of like, oh, I haven't played that in a while. That'd be kind of cool. But there are games
Yeah.
like Wonderful 101 is a game that ran like shit. And I would love to play it on the Switch too, because it would be its optimal frame rate. And the top down Zelda games were the same deal. They ran like shit. I'd love to play
Mhm.
those at full power. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to, like, I am a big fan of I'm looking forward to the games like Splatoon 2 and the new Animal Crossing, of course. I think what'll happen is for now we'll buy just one for Jen and I when we get one. And then once
Yeah.
they do that first revision, we'll get the second one. And we'll go
Yeah.
from there.
That's probably what we'll end up doing too. I got this one, and then inevitably, whenever like Zelda comes out and stuff like that, they'll put out the branded ones.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, they'll come out with some, Switch 2 Plus of some variety at some point in the future.
Yeah,
So,
this Switch
um,
is the same price, but it's a better battery. They're always looking,
right,
new SKUs. That's all they
yeah,
want, new SKUs.
yep. Because so far it sounds like Wim doesn't have any plans or interest in one. But I'm sure that at some point we
Hey,
will, as soon as Animal Crossing hits.
oh yeah, and I will say, holding one in my hand, the screen is big, it is colorful, and it is bright. The Switch One, comparably, feels like a toy. That the Switch 2 is a handheld device that I would be more than comfortable playing with in handheld mode, simply because the screen is that fucking big. It's large. I mean, oh, he's gonna demonstrate.
So, Switch 1.
There
Camera.
you go.
Okay.
See, it looks like a Kindle
Switch
Fire when
1,
it doesn't have the controllers.
Switch 2.
Yeah, it's and when you hold it in your hands and you look at it like face forward, you really get the full scope of how much fucking bigger the actual screen is. Here's the thing, guys. It's a really nice piece of hardware. Yeah, look at that.
So, yeah,
It's a nice
that
piece of
is
hardware.
directly on top of each other.
The problem is Nintendo is fighting against a lot of variables. The first variable is the price. The second variable to me is the launch lineup. It's one thing if you're going to charge me an exorbitant price, but when you charge me that price, if you're charging me $500 and I get one of only two first party games, which for the most part, I've played all the other games that you're releasing on my PC. Once again, Cyberpunk is awesome that it's on the Switch too. It's a 5-year-old game.
Yeah.
So if I had one right now, my focus would not be Mario Kart. Jen and I would play it. It wouldn't be Donkey Kong. My focus would be going through my library and installing all of those games that ran like shit and testing them.
Yeah.
The problem with that is that's only going to feed my attention so long. If Nintendo's smart, they do it in waves. They don't trickle them down. They go, okay, we haven't had a good first party in a while. We're going to release 6 of them this month.
Yeah.
Average of 1 a week. 2 of the weeks are going to have 2. Like, make it so people can't afford how many fucking awesome games are on your console. Right now,
Yeah.
your average person, if they're buying the $500 console, can eat the $150 for Mario Kart and Donkey Kong, no problem. You want to create an issue where your wallet can't afford how much good shit they have out there. And until you do that, you're going to still be a little bit rocky as far as keeping the ADD. You know what I mean?
Right. So yeah, there's Wim. Let's be real. We're all waiting for the next Animal Crossing. Yes, it'll mean a new Switch. I have no doubt about that.
I know that too. I mean, Rudy will, not only will she want the Switch, but she will then want a capture card. So she can plug it into her monitor or her PC and run it through there. So basically when that time comes, it's not $500, it's like $650 because I got to get a capture card as well.
Yeah. I will say, because I thought about that, I'm actually still using an Elgato HD60S, not the S Plus, the S. and I actually have not had any issues with it,
The
which
Elgato
is
capture cards
surprising.
were decent. Mine was a hand-me-down. It's the one that does full 1080p. It's internal, but it's really
Mhm.
finicky with the quality of HDMI you're using. Like if you're not
Yeah,
using a brand new gold-plated fucking high transfer, it crackles
yeah,
and all sorts of shit.
yeah. The two does come with an HDMI 2.0 cable, and then the original Switch power cable is sufficient to power the Switch 2 only in handheld mode, not in docked mode. You have to use the Switch 2 charger for the
Interesting.
dock.
How does it look on
Yeah.
the big TV?
I haven't tested it on the big TV yet. I've used it on one of my 24-inch monitors in my office, and it looks great. Um, that's going to be a near future purchase. Is a second dock. I need to figure out if they have them available, just the dock, or if that's
I mean,
not yet,
at
so
the
that I
price
can
they're
put
gonna
it in the
sell
living
them, you
room.
might as well just buy the second fucking Switch at this. It'll be $150
Right.
dock.
Yeah. And I think that's what I saw whenever I looked at one point, because we talked about it, and it was like, oh well, if you take out this, and that, it was like it dropped the unit price by like 150 bucks
Yeah,
and made it a reasonable purchase
yeah.
if it was just the unit.
And I think,
So
like, I mean, if Nintendo seems to be the one company that is sticking with we're a console company. And if you're going to do that, and unfortunately, Nintendo hasn't brought any innovation this generation. They're going for,
no.
we're going to give you the same experience you got, but a hell of a lot more powerful. Which
Mhm.
it will work in the end, but the problem with Nintendo is they're still working with already dated hardware. Frankly, all the consoles are. That's why when you have these arguments of like, oh, PS5 is better than PC, what PC? Because that architecture of the PS5 is 6 years old.
Right.
So, that's where the advantage of the PC will always have. The advantage Nintendo has is their brand. The only place you
Mhm.
can get Nintendo products is a Switch, and they're going to sell like hotcakes because they are the best first party software manufacturer out there. They have the best first
Yep.
party developers out there, hands down. And the entire reason people have to have a Switch too is because they know they're going to have new Zelda games and new Marios. And oh, by the way, you could play a bunch of classic shit. I'm in the same boat, just didn't have the $500 to throw on it, believe me. And I think this
Yeah.
is an important thing that people need to get over themselves with. If you were rich, you would have one. It wouldn't be a question of do I want. Everybody who's slightly interested in the technology wants one. The question is, can you prioritize $500 plus tax, plus games, plus accessories? So let's say $700 conservatively. Can you prioritize that right now? And for most people who are bitching about the price, is because the answer is no. And then you have a lot of people that don't use it. They bought one, they enjoyed it when they play it, but it's not a big thing. Those are the other
Yeah.
people that are kind of like, I would love to have one, but I'm not in at 500 because I just bought a video card last year that was 700.
Right.
You have a
Yeah.
lot of those things.
And
So
yeah.
it's already successful. I mean, I think they did a pretty good job. My brother said that their local Best Buy had units the next day until like 1 p.m. when he had checked last. So they pumped out a shit ton of units.
Yeah, that was one thing that I consistently heard, was that people were walking into stores the next day and there were still units available, which is fantastic because it means that they are doing a good job of combating the scalpers who
Yep.
are putting them up on, eBay for like
Well,
600, 700,
that
$800.
that's
Like,
that's the best way to do it is flood the market with them.
mhm.
You won't have scalpers when
Yep.
I can go into any Best Buy, any Target, any GameStop and get one. And
Yep.
and I think that's what the big box stores like GameStop. I get it. They're technically niche. They can't afford to have 30 Switch 2s in stock if they're not going to sell them all within a certain time period. I get it.
Right.
But a Best Buy, a Target, come on, dude. How many times do people go and like people with money go to Target with
Mm.
no reason just so they can spend money? Those are the people that will go, oh, the new Switch came out. The kids will like that. Boom, in the
Yeah.
cart. Like, you know,
Yep.
places like Best Buy, Walmart, even though I avoid Walmart, like it's like everybody in there has the fucking plague. Still, Walmart's another place where they should have ample stock. Best Buy should have ample stock. Flood the market so you can't. It doesn't make any sense for somebody to go list one for $800.
Right.
And God forbid you tell the people not to staple the fucking receipts to the boxes.
Yeah. So
Uh,
for anybody that's not aware on that one, so certain stores, I don't know if it was one specific store or a collection of stores or what,
I
but
think it was New York or
in
New Jersey GameStop.
something like that. Yeah. So let me throw it behind me where I can't reach it. The Switch 2, uh, Nintendo packaged it a little bit poorly. It's in a, it's in a plastic sleeve, but the actual Switch, the display portion, is sitting right up against the top of the box. No padding, no protection, no anything. Well, nobody thought to tell the retailers that, and apparently there were some stores in the New York area that instead of taping the receipt to the box, or here's your receipt, here's your box, two separate units, they were stapling receipts to the boxes. It may have been pre-orders, so it might have been like, oh hey, here's, we're tagging all the
But even that,
receipts
who
on the
the fuck
boxes.
is
But even
angrily
still,
stapling this shit? Like, who's taking the box and going boom? And you know what I mean? Like,
right.
you're hammering it into it.
Right. So, and yeah, KG, I would have been pissed too if they'd done this to mine. And the people were
Oh
rightfully pissed.
man.
You open the box up and your switch is brand new switch is already broken,
Oh.
and presumably there's somewhat limited supply. Like, how many switches did they have to replace because somebody was stupid with a stapler?
Well, then
Use
like
tape.
you get home. Like, what if you don't open it in the
Mhm.
car?
Right.
And you get home and you open the lid and you realize you have to kind of pull it to detach it. Like, well, that
Mhm.
seems odd. And then you look at it and
Mhm.
there's just two little, like a spider bite of puncture holes in the fucking thing, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, I would be livid. I
Hmm.
don't care what time it is. I would pray that I
Yeah.
can get back to that GameStop in time before the rest of the line cleared. Because I don't care if it's
Yeah.
little Billy's switch at the end of the line. You're
Hmm.
giving me a different fucking unit.
Yeah, well, and I'd be out there warning the rest of the people too, like check your
Yeah,
shit
yeah.
before you leave
Open
the
the
store.
fucking box in your car because you know they're,
Yeah,
they're they're ruining them. How stupid! And
because
I get
Johnny fucking pothead behind the counter
right. Like,
is back there.
well, here's the thing. Let's say it's packaged differently, where the switch is midway through the box, and you got foam here and
Hmm.
foam here. People collect boxes. They want their shit pristine. The last thing somebody wants that who just spent $500 on this new console, and if it's somebody that's going to take this box and they're going to keep up all the styrofoam and they're going to store it until eventually they no longer play the Switch 2 and then it's going to go into storage, they want it pristine, you just ruin their whole fucking thing. And they just effectively, and it's like your average person is probably going to be like, dude, I don't want to, like, that would be shitty for me to make them take it back for a couple
Yeah.
puncture holes. But like, there's people out there that I think would be within their rights to be like, no, I bought a pristine box, a pristine unit. I'm a collector.
Hmm.
You gave me a damaged product. Even if the
Yeah,
Switch 2 itself was fine.
yeah, and KG would be tempted to do a chargeback. I probably would too. I would give them the opportunity, like even if I somehow made it home and found it before the store closed, like I'd call the store back and be like, look, I just picked up my Switch. I just got home. There's puncture holes in the screen. You're going to swap it out. And if they fought me on it, I would absolutely do a chargeback. If
Yeah.
they're like, oh, well, we can't guarantee you didn't do it yourself. Okay, first of all, why am I going to put staples in my Switch 2 that I just bought, that I just paid $500 for? No, pound sand.
Well, that's where
But
GameStop gets in trouble though, because I think they have a 30-day policy on any new product for any reason.
right. Yeah, and so that comes down to the store manager, because we all know that store managers make stupid decisions. There
They
was
did
one store.
not only did they
Mhm.
fight it, I'm pretty sure Nintendo actually put out like a tweet joking about it where they made reference, or GameStop might have put out a tweet where they showed Office Space. And they said, "Don't worry, everybody's staplers have been confiscated."
But yeah, there was at least one, I think it was a Best Buy store that I heard of, that would not let people purchase a Switch 2. I think it was if they were trying to buy one on site versus pre-ordering. And the store that they were at, one of the associates was like, well, I can't sell this to you unless you fill out an application and put it on a Best Buy credit card. Then like 12 people did before somebody complained to a manager, and the manager got involved.
You know what I do in
Like
that circumstance?
managers make stupid
I
decisions all the time.
I do a really shitty signature, and
Mhm.
I get my Switch 2, and then as soon as that first bill comes in, I call in and say, I never opened a fucking credit card. I was there. I bought the Switch 2 that night, but I never opened a credit card. And then
Yeah.
I would fight it and get my Switch 2 for free. You're gonna fuck me? No, I'm gonna fuck you. That's not how this works.
Hey,
You're
no,
not
fuck you.
yeah, you're not fucking me. No fuck me, fuck you. Like, and that's how I would handle that. Like, I'm getting this motherfucker for free. You fucked up. You think I'm paying that credit card bill? Does that look like my signature? No, it doesn't. I don't think it
That's not my
does.
signature. That's a happy face.
Yeah. I tell you right now, you sign right now next to you do a happy face like that person who fraudulently signed this did. Because I'm fucking not paying this bill. And no, you're not getting the Switch back. As far as I knew, I paid for it. Yeah, that's how shitty I would become. You're going to try to fuck me over and credit card fraud my ass? Okay. We can play at the same level. I'm getting this bitch for free and your job. Because if I got to come back and actually pay for it, which was I was already prepared to do, you're fired. I'm gonna become the biggest fucking Karen in this store.
You'd
Yes.
sign it as MILF maker.
Yeah. That's right. The name's Arthur Milfmaker. And I walk away, and then I get credit. I put it. The other thing is, like, we're gonna fill that out. Like, let it come to your house. Don't say anything. Let the first bill come, and then just go stub your toe. Get into an argument with a family member. Something to get that blood moving, and then call those motherfuckers, and just unleash your anger. And eventually they will be begging for you to let them off the phone. And they would rather deal with firing a Best Buy employee than having you scream, not even real words. Just start screaming sounds at a certain point that sound like they could be real words. And you'll get that fucking counsel for free in that circumstance. But that's nothing new. When we worked at Blockbuster, there used to be all these, like, you remember the rewards program?
Yeah.
So your whole thing was to sell the year's worth of rewards for $10. And you would be in competition with other stores, and then you would hear about other stores basically telling people they were free, and they'd scan it, give them the reward, because they would be like, the person would be running a new release and like an old one, and you would technically get that old one for free. So what they would do is they would sign the rewards, give them the free movie, and then credit the other movie. So you were just spending $10 for the rewards. And so as soon as we had heard that, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Like we were never shitty. Like we wouldn't defraud people, but we would, it'd be like, for our regulars, it'd be like, yo, man, I don't know how long this price is going to be, but you can lock it in for as many years as you want. And it was shit like that. And it's like, that's just how it works. People trying to make that. I mean, that kid probably got, whoever's doing that, the credit card fraud was probably told, like, get your credit card signups up or we're gonna have to let you go, dude. And he's like, okay. And I would have fucked that kid's life up though. I would have hired an attorney for $500. Fuck him. I'd have been like, I'll pay you $75 to deal with this. And you can play Mario Kart with me later. It's part of the deal. Was there anything else we wanted to cover? We got to Marvel, Fortnite, Switch, plus a bunch of tangents.
I think the only other thing that I found slightly interesting over the last couple of weeks was Disneyland in Anaheim, the original Disneyland, is finally starting to announce that they're making progress with their Disneyland Forward project, which is basically, so the last time Disneyland Resort in Anaheim actually expanded was they added Galaxy's Edge, and they did a little bit of redesigning around the parks and stuff like that. This is mostly only relevant to me and Disney people, but it's so fun to talk about.
KG is a big Disney person.
Yeah, I heard KG has season pass for World, I think, so, which is awesome. Sorry, KG. And so they're finally starting to actually talk about the progress that they're making on their Disneyland Forward project. And basically it's not real exciting stuff because it's not actually huge changes to the parks. They're adding a new parking structure. for an additional 6,000 cars. They're
Wow.
redoing the Esplanade area, which is the big area in between. So I don't know if you've ever been to Disneyland Park, but basically, if you're looking at it like a top-down view, Disneyland Park is at the top. There's a big walkway in the middle called the Esplanade that's like kind of the transition zone between the two parks. And there's ticket booths. It's where like all the transportation stuff comes in and stuff like that. And then the bottom part is Disney California Adventure. Now they're updating that to they're adding a bridge over the street to the side. It's a pedestrian bridge that goes to the new parking area, which is actually behind an entire row of hotels. And then they're adding, the pedestrian bridge. They're redesigning the whole transportation area so that they can get shuttles to and from that parking area. It's really cool. They're making a lot of really awesome changes. They're dumping the Monsters Inc. ride in California Adventure. They're adding an Avatar land. And then they're adding a couple of other things. So it's really cool. And it's nice to hear that positive changes are coming to the parks. They've taken a lot of flack lately just for the costs and stuff like that. So, but improving the parks is going to make it more worth the value. So it's kind of cool. So if you go around look up Disneyland Forward, and you'll kind of see artist renderings of how it's going to be. Disney always does a really great job with stuff like that. So it's really cool. And it's kind of interesting because the head of the parks division is a guy named Josh D'Amaro. I think it's D'Amaro. And he is kind of, rumor has it, he's being tapped or wants to be tapped to replace Bob Iger, the current CEO, when he retires again within the next couple of years. And so this is kind of making progress on this project, on the Disneyland Forward project, because Josh D'Amaro is currently the head of the parks division. So making that progress would really kind of thrust him into the front of, the forefront for this job. So it's just kind of interesting to hear a little bit about the politics and stuff like that of Disneyland and like, oh, cool. What new stuff are they up to today? Oh, that's what.
The only other thing I heard in that regard was for Halloween Horror Nights, Universal Studios is doing a Fallout haunted house. So they're you know what it is you got to remember that Fallout Season 2 is starting in December.
Oh, that's right.
So it'll probably just be promotion to the lead up of Season 2. But yeah, apparently there's going to be a Fallout haunted house. He's a good replacement, according to KG. KG's going to go to that haunted house. Let me know how it is.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of good things about Josh D'Amaro. And I think that over the last couple of years, the parks have taken a lot of flack, but I don't think it's necessarily anything that is his fault. Like, I think it's just a lot of people retired during the COVID era. And so, you had a lot of the old guard that retired during that time because some parks were closed. And so they were just like, all right, well, we're going to furlough everybody. And a lot of the old guard that really knew how stuff worked and how stuff ran and all that kind of stuff, like the little idiosyncrasies and all the little tribal knowledge bits and stuff like that just get lost over time. So I think a lot of the current Disneyland, specifically like the ride maintenance staff and stuff like that, they're kind of learning on the fly a lot of this stuff. And so maintenance has had some issues, but I think that they're really pushing. Like, I don't have any doubt that Disney is pushing really hard. And, because other than the crap pay and having to deal with crappy people, I think most of the Disneyland park, most people that work for Disney do it for passion. Like, they're not doing it to get rich.
I mean, it's one of those things where I think especially if you're in the park and you're a cast, like where you're on the floor playing a character and shit, it all builds resume. Like, especially if you're a working actor, you're probably doing some job to make shit money anyways. At least this way, every day at your work, you're doing a performance. You're essentially, kind of practicing your chosen craft. Like, and I'd imagine a lot of the people that you know, especially ones that are doing any of the roles of like princesses and shit that do singing and stuff are all actresses or singers or although you can also
Yeah.
get hired to be a stormtrooper. So, you know, there's always that sort of thing too that has nothing to do with any real sort of performance art, but
Yeah. I actually saw a Reddit post the other day of somebody who was like, I specifically want a job cast as a stormtrooper. How do I do that? I'm like, good for you, dude.
it would be great to just you're completely anonymous and you shit talk people in the voice of a stormtrooper because they have the voice
Right.
modulators. Like, why not? It does sound fun. You know,
Yep.
like
The only
I've seen.
requirement is you have to be taller than Mark Hamill.
That's not hard. What is he? 5'4"?
Something like that.
Yeah. Luke was not the tall. Although I have to imagine he's shrunk as he's gotten older. Like I feel like when you
Yeah.
look at Luke in Empire Strikes Back compared to Mark Hamill now, it looks
Yeah.
like he's portraying like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. He's just kind of hunched into himself. The contract those people have is yeah. Oh, I'm sure the NDA, and then not only that, but the code of conduct is like I saw a video where it was a Gaston, and this I don't know if she was drunk or just goofy, but this girl was kind of trying to hang off him and got clingy to the point where he's like, "Stop it! There is children, knock it off." And so their whole job is to not. I mean, it's performance, but it's also to protect the character. You know, the
Right.
one of the big things they can't have is some having Stitch out back smoking a cigarette. Like you
Right.
can't, if you're in the outfit, you better be that fucking character.
Yeah, and it's like so I was actually at Disneyland in 2003 with my high school marching band. It was our spring trip, and they're serious about that even backstage. Like if you are anywhere like even within a sight line of a door that leads to the front stage area, you can't get away with anything. Like we were standing close to where one of the gates opened for the parade to come out because we're doing the parade for, something. And it was a combination of parade and spring trip. And there was a character who was in one of the bodysuits, one of the performers, cast members that was in one of the bodysuits, and they came backstage and they were probably like 50, 75 feet away from the gate. So it's not like, and the gate was closed, like all that. And they were on their way through a door. They weren't all the way through the door. But you could see they got part of the way through the door and they started to take off their head. And the handler that was with them, like, shoved it back down because they weren't all the way through the door and have it closed behind them. Like, they are hardcore serious about that stuff.
Well, I mean, that's kind of, I suppose, what separates a place like Disney from a place like Chuck E. Cheese. Like, you go to Chuck E. Cheese and Chester the fucking rat is smoking a cigarette out back, right before he fucking goes in there and serves
got his
pizza.
head under his arm.
Yeah, those motherfuckers are wild today. Every year they get worse and worse.
Yeah. But I mean, they take it like even the characters take it seriously. Like I saw it was like a guy that did Gaston did an AMA on Reddit or something like that, and they seriously, yeah. KJ had a friend in high school that went to work for Disney, and he was one of those characters. He couldn't even tell. Like he came back to visit 6 months after he graduated. He told us that he played a character, but he could not tell us who. Like not couldn't tell us who. And
yeah, I'd imagine
so that was kind of interesting.
That means there's NDAs within their employment contract. That's fucking nuts. Like in that, like it's really crazy when you have an NDA for employment and not exiting something.
Yeah, and like the Gaston character, I don't know if he still does, but he would do push-up contests with guests. Like if you would come up and challenge him, so they had like a physical attribute requirement for Gaston to be able to do push-ups, and like he intentionally trained to be able to do a lot of push-ups really fast just so that he would constantly win those contests and like blow away guests.
What a hell of a way to stay in shape. Play a character where you have to be in great shape. I guess it's no different. It's
Right.
really, and it really is all just that acting world, basically. I mean, look at
Yeah.
Christian Bale. One day he's 90 pounds, and the next day he's fucking Batman.
Yep.
All right, everybody.
All
Is
right.
that everything?
I think that's about enough.
All right, kids. We will see you in a couple weeks. I have the Spotify 100% set up with all the previous episodes. Jiminy Cricket and his boys probably get assigned to all the new new hires. Oh gosh, that'd be funny if
I
the
think I
real,
liked it better the first way.
the real life Jiminy Cricket's just a son of a bitch though. Like backstage, he's like, "Don't make me repeat myself again, kid." You guys have a great evening. We'll be back in a couple weeks. I will get all the episodes, including this one, uploaded to the YouTube. For now, all past episodes are on Spotify, and we're working more and more. Like we've got FrostyBot and stuff, but we're working more and more to get a lot of those integrations into Twitch. Once we hit affiliate, that'll make it easier. But until then, we're going to try to have some fun workarounds. But thank you guys for watching. I am Nerditude, as you all know.
I am Amonis, yeah, and thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Really appreciate it. Much love to everybody.
Have you guys selves a great weekend. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye.
See ya.